Welcome to this online open rehearsal at VIVO Music Festival. I am Siwoo Kim, violinist and artistic director of VIVO. We've titled this season Reimagined, as we all think of new ways to connect with each other during this historic period. I have the rare opportunity to be in a single space with these great musicians today. Jeffrey Myers, violinist, Alicia Hui, violinist, Henry Kramer, pianist, Estelle Choi, cellist, and Matthew Lipman, violist. The act of rehearsing and sculpting a unified interpretation together is one of the greatest joys of playing chamber music. These musicians have rehearsed and recorded a full-length HD live concert on Thursday, which is set to premiere tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on our website, vivofestival.org, and on our Facebook page. Let me tell you, it was just so great listening to these guys. What a privilege. But with music, there is no limit to interpretation and getting more aligned as an ensemble. This open rehearsal is intended to give you a preview of what to expect tomorrow, as well as give you an opportunity to see how the musicians rehearse together. This live stream will not be available indefinitely, so feel free to ask questions and comments. And if you know of a music student who may benefit from this experience, share this video with them or tag them. Enjoy.
So Siwoo was too kind in saying that the performance was perfect, and we have a lot of work to do, so please bear with us.
Tuned, and I'm like 15 cents flatter than ever.
Okay, so first step, always remember to tune before you start rehearsing.
Oh wow, that's a...
Wow.
I don't know. I didn't tune.
Done.
Done.
Yeah, it's especially important if you're playing with piano to see what the piano is tuned to, and there are many applications that you can use to do that. One of our favorites that Estelle and I use is called Tunable, and it'll tell you exactly what the piano's tuned to, so you don't have to, there's no guessing involved.
And then for string quartets, it's always good to check your strings together as well.
Mhm.
So making sure that we all blend and we all mesh together.
We won't dare do that now.
I have a question for
Yes.
everybody. In bar 8, my part stops having accents on the half notes. Does everybody have that?
I'm following what he does.
So it's my fault.
So you don't have accents.
I
then,
don't have
but you
accents.
do previously.
Yes.
That might be interesting. That the phrase doesn't hold on as tightly. That it kind of almost softens into the resolution
Into the
in the
forte
next
piano.
bar.
What edition are you using?
Henley.
Henley Verlag Minchil.
Your Spanish is really
What?
good.
I have
Come again?
accents.
You have accents?
I
Oh, you do?
Yeah, my edition. Well, that's another thing. Ideally, we should all be using the same edition.
That's besides the point.
I think this is a first edition, and it has accents in all parts. So
Interesting.
who knows? I don't know. But
Nice.
I'm open to try.
I don't have-
You know,
Oh.
maybe it's an
None of us do. Wow.
interesting.
Should we try?
Yeah,
Just to see what happens?
sure.
So no accents.
Right.
Okay.
And see what that makes us feel.
We'll talk about our feelings after.
Oh, I like it.
But then we don't have, at least I don't have accents when it comes back
Yeah.
right here.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh,
Accented in mine.
I do
Very-
have
We'd have to do some study of the editions and minutes.
Compare and contrast.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about this now. We've recorded already.
Well, also, you know, accent doesn't necessarily mean, you know, this. It can sometimes also mean this, which is a different approach.
That is true.
Maybe it's a, you know, that kind of sound rather than, you know.
I think I remember Fleischer talking about the inimitable pianist who just passed away at the age of 92. How accents in Schumann are actually buoyant up.
Yeah.
And so I think this is the perfect example of a kind of Schumann ecstatic quality
Totally.
to the sound. So it's definitely not pushed in any way.
And I think we're doing this, but I've always thought, you know, each successive accent is a little bit more ecstatic. Like it's not the most right at the beginning, but then you have this great canon with the cello and the piano, you know, in the opening.
Can you play that for us?
Yeah. Want to do that, Estelle?
Oh,
I actually
me?
do.
She wasn't paying attention.
Just the opening, you can hear this. But the cello part gives the second part so much lift. I love that. So you don't ever really get stuck in the first 8 bars. And I don't know if this is also in the Henley, but I think it is that on the F, beginning the second 4-bar statement, I have a sforzando. So I always feel like that minor is a little bit even more.
Bring out the turn.
Whoa. The things you never knew.
Yeah.
I don't know much, so this is all amazing.
Things you
Your
never
mind is
knew.
blown.
All right, should we give that a shot?
Sure.
I wanted to try something getting into the espressivo in Jeff's part. What if this time maybe I'll try it where I don't do any retard and
Okay.
then I really give you the spotlight there.
Sure.
Should we go from the beginning and then go to that spot?
Yeah, I think so.
So we
Wow.
have several comments actually.
Yay!
And
Please.
Is it
hello,
my mom?
thanks so much for saying hi. Yes.
Back up a little bit.
We have
Back
a
up a little
oh, yes. We have a question from Mari Kim. She's watching from Seoul, Korea,
Hi.
and she said, "Thank you so much. How long will the members be preparing for this concert?"
Mm.
Our whole life.
Well, actually, that's kind of true. I mean, all of us have played this piece before and in
Yeah.
different settings, so we all have a wealth of knowledge individually, and then coming together is a whole experience in
I
itself.
mean,
So.
we've played this with you, Henry.
Mhm.
Back in the day.
cool! I didn't know that.
I played it with Siwoo.
That's true.
So I mean, normally in a chamber music festival, you have a few days to rehearse. So you really have to come to the festival prepared and knowing the score. Hopefully, with the
Everybody
right
else's
additions
part.
and
Speaking,
everybody
Yeah.
else's part.
speaking of score, we sent out the PDF to the score, so people are following along right now.
Oh, wow.
Which
Um,
They
edition?
can tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And somebody commented, "This is even better than a final performance. A chance to watch the work that goes into making a performance. This is so great." So awesome!
Nice.
Thank you so much for that comment.
Well, keep them coming.
What about if we tried a little bit of the second theme area, and maybe we could think about something, try something like between the two statements of it, like
Mhm.
to change somehow. Whether
Is the
it's
second one extended? Yeah, right? The cello, you're talking about the cello thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and also we have the addition of the violin with this commentary, and the addition of a character. I mean, do we want to come down for the second one? I think
Mhm.
this first time we did it a little bit more, which I liked as well. But I'm just curious what it would sound like if maybe the second time we kind of go into a dreamier space.
Sure.
Okay.
Like
Be
the con
interesting.
fuoco. Should we go right from where I have the dolce before,
Mm-hmm.
right before you come in? I kind of like that.
Nice.
It really makes
Yeah,
the
it also
con
gives us
fuoco.
more space to continue
Yeah.
the phrase. Yeah. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Henry, you know this, our string crescendo that we once talked about? And then you start the bom, bom.
Mhm.
Is there a marking there?
I don't have one. I don't have one for strings, but I have the
Confo-
crescendo.
Oh.
un
Are you
poco
talking about the
rid,
next bar?
and then
the next bar.
yeah,
You have con fuoco?
con fuoco, sforzando.
I just thought this time around, it seemed like we all know so well that that's going to happen.
More surprising.
But if you're actually listening to this piece the first time, we're kind of in this hazy.
do you want to try
It could really be a different articulation we haven't
Don't
had.
scare her.
How about we go 4 bars before that?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Before the con focal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I thought that was good.
Weird what I did.
That's why why you
I was trying to
experiment. You
think
try.
that this is where this.
Yeah, and I think we can reflect that a little bit because we're very kind of in the dreamy in our first set of half notes, and then kind of a little bit foreshadowing what's coming, just and making our sounds a little denser.
Is the accent on the downbeat?
No,
There isn't.
It's on the. And then, well, I have accent, sforzando.
Sforzando. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because it's one of those double notes. It ends the previous grouping of notes, but it also starts a new thing.
Yeah, ellipsis.
Yeah, I think there could be a teeny bit more break in between just
Wanna
to
try that?
prepare the sound.
Sure. Same thing. Yeah, that's nice.
I like.
And
Yeah.
unfreeze.
It really accentuates the con poco, I think. Yeah. Do you guys maybe want to look at another movement?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean we know more than one movement?
I didn't know we were doing the whole thing.
You know the one thing that I wish people could see, like I wish, like for me, like y'all can't see, but hopefully you can tell by my eyes, but I'm smiling a lot just because I'm having so much fun playing with you guys.
Oh.
We have to tell each other when we're smiling.
Yeah.
Or you could just.
Very important now. This is a masterclass in mask wearing. We talked a lot about the tempo of this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's an
there's
interesting thing.
there are a large variety of tempos that people take for this movement, and actually Schumann's writing is quite fast, and I think he writes this movement in cut time, and if we actually take his tempo, you really feel it in cut time rather than in 4. which
Should we
happens a
play
lot.
2 versions?
Yeah.
Should we play the
Like the typical slower
Yeah,
version.
like 2 generations ago
Yeah.
tempo?
And then yeah.
Without naming names.
We've started drinking more coffee.
Okay.
So that's sort of sometimes typically what happens in this movement. But
Mhm.
we found that when you then go to the next section, this dreamy C major, it's really hard to sustain the melody and stay at that tempo.
Mhm.
So if we go with Schumann's tempo marking,
Yeah,
Which
to
is-
even try it
which
is,
is- yeah.
that's a good clue.
yeah, I think it also, for me, my perception is it really, it's in the mode of a march, in the style of a march. And I think we hear that a lot more with Schumann's tempo. So let's try that. Yeah, for me it sounds so much more like a march. And maybe this movement isn't so lugubrious and serious,
Mhm.
Turgid.
And I also think, I always relate this kind of faster tempo to the agitato, which happens later. It's as if the whole piece is building up the suspense toward this release, where, the tempo is going to... So you have
Yeah.
it's kind of brewing all the way through.
Heartbeat.
And then when the agitato comes, it makes more sense musically, I think, rather than this outburst completely unrelated to the opening.
Actually, Henry, we have a question directed towards you. Actually, from Patricia Callahan.
Oh, that's my mom.
No. Your mother
I had her
asks.
change her last name.
Your mother asks, is Henry playing on a Steinway? Size of piano matters when playing in a quintet? Question mark.
That's a good question. I am playing on a Yamaha today, and it is, I would say, 5 feet about. I prefer a bigger piano with the quintet personally, because and I think with a quintet, you have the whole force of a string quartet, so you can be a little more orchestral, I think, in the sound than versus a quartet or a trio. And but I think it's all about how you voice. I just prefer bigger pianos. What can I say? But this Yamaha is very lovely too.
Awesome. And there's a comment from Judy Hellum that the cello has a really beautiful sound, very warm.
Oh, thank you.
We try it warmer.
Oh, that's what you're getting at.
So
Oh.
Yeah.
You wanna try maybe another movement? Or keep going on?
This is when we're going click.
should we talk a little bit about the first little intermezzo here
Sure.
with the texture? It's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. It's kind of a special texture.
It is.
Like in the piano, you have these really legato triplets, and then the
Let's demonstrate.
second violin
then
and viola
us
are
too,
playing in
so-
cross rhythm to that.
So this is like a good example of how many different rhythms happen simultaneously, which I hope some of my students are watching this because rhythm is important. And then the melody that Jeff and Estelle have, which is really beautiful. On top of that, just floating.
Sublime.
Mm-hmm.
And it says espressivo, but always piano. It's like this floating kind of.
Can you play it, two of you?
Yeah.
You don't start at the beginning, do you?
Oh, I can still play.
Okay. Without us?
So beautiful.
Yeah.
It is very warm.
Wait, so I have a question.
Mhm.
If you didn't know, if you're a listener, you didn't know what was underneath in terms of rhythm, what the three of us are doing, how would you play it differently, and how do you approach it knowing that we do have all this excitement underneath? Does that affect anything?
Along with the rhythm, the rhythmic aspect of it, Schumann writes a lot of hairpins on specific notes, and there are a few dynamic changes, and pianissimo being the most special color. And I would say that if none of that was there and the rhythm was much more straightforward, I would say we would constantly be thinking of a longer phrase. And there are certain notes that become really expressive in the way, and there's a push and pull also that wouldn't be there without all of this stuff written. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but
I completely disagree. No.
What about your vibrato?
yes, and
That
I
doesn't matter.
a lot of those instead of just being a decibel level increase in dynamic when he writes these hairpins, I think largely they're expressive markings, and we choose to express that with the different speeds of vibrato.
Should we put it all together?
Yes.
Good job, Schumann.
I love when the cello and violin start doubling the melody, that he gives the piano like the lowest notes. I love that part. It sounds so great with the doubling.
What I like how all of this connects, like for me personally, it's easier to figure out what's going on in real time, as I said earlier this week. And like with what Jeff and Estelle are doing with the melody, like Matt and I can react in terms of how we do our eighth notes at least. Like we can delay it or we can just push it just a little bit to give it that, lack for a better term, drive per se. So, yeah. And that's another form of listening to each other.
Well, and a fun tidbit that I was unaware of, we're doing some research on the piece, and did you know Mendelssohn played the piano for the premiere of this piece?
I did not know that.
And he also, afterwards, gave Schumann some notes about what he thought he could improve, and I think
Did he improve them?
Schumann
he
actually-
incorporated some of them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
Mendelssohn was a great pianist.
Yeah.
His part might have been a little difficult.
Alright. 4:30.
Anyway, it's amazing to think that those musical giants were running in the same circles, playing each other's music.
Like us.
You know, this might be useful for some of the chamber music students watching, but at the very end when the theme comes back and
Yes.
it's in a totally different key, we went from C minor to B flat minor, and now the low strings have pizzicato. I felt so good playing with you guys because it's so clear where it's gonna go, and I don't know if you have like a way of describing how you show that, because this is always one of the challenges of the movement, is that piano is really together with everybody, even despite the silences.
Also, pizzicato in general is incredibly hard to get together because with a bow you can kind of like fluff exactly where it is, but with pits
It's immediate.
it's immediate. You can't fluff it.
Immediately
Yeah.
clear.
So how
you're
do we
wrong.
play it together, Estelle?
In general, I mean, I think I'm sort of initiating the cues for this. I like to think about subdivisions. So imagining that my right hand's actually like basically like a conductor. So even feeling like something clear enough that you immediately know what the tempo is.
Yeah.
So we could just be lounging about and pick up our instruments, and whatever cue I give, you know, this is the downbeat. So as long as I can convey that, and what I've noticed over the years is that if it's not together, there's a really good chance that I haven't given a clear enough cue. So what's important when you're working through things like this is to see it from different perspectives and see what you can do to contribute and to move things in the right direction.
And are you also watching the people that you're playing
Absolutely, yeah. So you have to gauge people's reactions. So if I'm giving a cue, and
Oh, I didn't get
what
it.
did you, right. So he didn't catch it, and then you have to. I should actually be kind of have my feelers out and gauge how they're reacting in real time. Okay, and then let's try something else. So the second one was a lot better.
I'm so sorry, it's my fault.
I was gonna blame you.
That's another. I always blame the pianist.
Yes.
Actually,
It's 4 against 1.
a chamber music giant once told me that even the art of cueing is actually leading rhythmically, like Estelle was just demonstrating, but then actually following
Yes.
Yeah.
the other person. So
Exactly.
even though you're leading, you're not just
Yeah.
going ahead no matter what.
Yeah, you don't have like horse blinders on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The key to a great relationship.
Hey.
You know, I noticed something you did at the expense of overanalyzing, but it's really what you do after each pits that gives me all the information. It's not really the pits itself. So you have this very clear, almost conductor-like gesture with your right hand that just there's no doubt.
And I think also embodying.
Matt's getting it. Yeah.
This is very good. Well, actually, I think character makes a big difference. If you're gonna cue the beginning of this whole piece, like you're not gonna, it's not gonna be together. It's not gonna capture the spirit of. So it doesn't hurt to be an actor and portray these characters.
Right. Actually, there's a fun exercise that I like to do with students is the pizza game. And
Pizza now.
chamber music, we don't have a conductor, so we're leading each other and also giving each other's clues as to what we're thinking. And that's also portrayed with body language. And the cue itself gives, of course, the rhythm. The speed in which you inhale is an indication of the speed that you would like to play in, but also the sharpness of that inhale or your body language with it helps convey the character. So for instance, if I go right now and I say, pizza. Or with kids, I'll say, pizza, right? So, yeah, exactly.
I'm working off.
Speaking of which, how about we hear the next movement?
Oh, okay.
Oh dear.
What do you mean, oh dear?
I didn't practice this one, so.
And that's another thing you in rehearsal never say. I didn't practice.
Even if you didn't.
Say what now?
Actually, this is a great question.
Uh-oh.
So,
See, we'll come over here because you're kind of cut off. It's
oh, I
okay.
see. I don't have a head.
No head.
Question from a non-musician. If a quintet performs regularly as a group, do they dissect the work to this extent? That's a fascinating question, especially because we do have a pair of musicians here who do work together quite often, and I'm sure you guys have played this as a quartet quite often as well.
I would say when you are in a preformed ensemble that kind of concertizes regularly together, you have the luxury of being able to kind of pick apart pieces this way. Because ultimately you're trying to come up with a unified vision of how you feel the piece should go, what the character should be, what the atmosphere should be. So we don't always have this kind of time, but I would say when you are in a group that works together a lot.
Yeah, and I would say, especially when we're playing a piece at a summer festival and we don't have, or with another artist, we don't have as much time to rehearse. So you have to really react in the moment to what's happening. And that's what makes chamber music so great. It's like a conversation without actually talking about things. So.
Yeah. Henry and I play together a lot too, as a duo.
Yeah.
And I can predict what he'll do in this group similarly. Because I know him so well.
And we know the piece. I mean, this is luckily one of those pieces that we keep coming back to, and it never has a shortage of new discoveries. So, over the years, you kind of learn what works and what doesn't work, and
Yeah, for me, like, my main profession is being an orchestral player, and part of my job as a leader of a section is I have to follow the conductor, and I also have to follow what his visual cues are, because sometimes people like to show as opposed to talk quite a bit, so I'm very fortunate that I'm able to pick up those kinds of cues, which comes in handy when I'm playing with multiple different chamber groups, which is something that I also do around town. So.
She says, thank you, that makes sense.
You're welcome.
Let's play some scherzo.
Okay.
And have fun. Well, scherzo is another word for a joke, right?
Scherzando.
Any thoughts?
What's the joke of this one?
I don't know if it's
Rhythm's
so
pretty
literal.
jokey.
Sounds inspired by Beethoven's Eroica Symphony to me.
Another piece in E flat major.
Yeah.
Precisely.
What role does the choice of key play in the piece of music that you play, do you think? Do you have any opinions of that? 'Cause E flat is such a popular key.
I think there's a definite, well, you know, I'm theorizing, but I think there's a definite relationship to maybe the Mozart piano quartet in E flat major, which begins, you know, with a similar gesture. This piece begins. It's a similar progression that seems like a nod to that. And this is, I think, maybe the first kind of piano quintet that really inspires a whole generation of piano quintets. So it's like he's taking Mozart, who made the piano quartet really a genre that composers write, and he expands it to the quintet, and then after that we get Brahms quintet, we get Fauré quintets, we get Dvorak, but it's really, I think, the Schumann that kind of has that trajectory. So maybe he was hoping to achieve the same thing with Mozart's piano quartets by writing this quintet. But E flat is a very noble kind of key, and Schumann's quartet is also in E flat too. So I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, actually, string players, when we were playing works in E flat, it's often like a tuning nightmare. But with the piano here, does that change how you
Well, you can't argue so much.
Yes, and especially if haven't had a tuned piano, then
Right.
it's super fun. The sounds.
That's a great opportunity to plug in Andrew Kowalski, who was very generous in getting this piano tuned. Very last minute during current circumstance.
I'm appreciative.
So are we.
Yes.
Could we get just a little teaser of the last movement, and that's probably all the time we have for today.
What's the beginning? The key signature for the last movement is the same as the end of the third movement, but it sounds very different, right? Does he go to a different key?
It's relative.
C minor.
Is this the only bit that's been in C minor?
I think the second movement was in C minor.
Oh, right.
Just the viola solo.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I already forgot.
We'll edit that part out.
Till next time. Stay tuned for
Same
next week's
bad
episode
channel.
of
Absolutely, that was perfect. A perfect cliffhanger. Thank you, all of you, for joining us today. Just like everyone else in the world, we're all trying new things out to be able to connect in different ways. If you enjoyed today's experience, please leave us some comments if you think this should be a keeper when we go back to a normal sorts. And also, this will be your last chance to ask any questions to the musicians, unless you plan on joining us after the concert tomorrow for a Zoom reception, if you will. And I believe the information has been relayed to you in the comments. But I should check this right now. But
Never hurts.
the entirety of this work, the Schumann Piano Quintet, will be closing tomorrow's concert, which also includes the Haydn Gypsy Trio and the Kodai Serenade. And it was recorded on Thursday with HD cameras, the courtesy of Alex Brown Productions and Eric Van Wagner's audio. And we're actually recording right now from his studio at GrooveU. So many thanks to GrooveU and the Columbus Museum of Art for the beautiful, beautiful space where we recorded yesterday. Let's see. Okay.
Last chance. Get 'em in.
No questions. Thank you. I enjoyed this. Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed hearing live sounds here, and feel like it was a privilege to hear
Dead
my
silence.
fantastic, my fantastic colleagues. But thank you again for tuning in, and hope to see you tomorrow at the same time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, at vivofestival.org, and also our Facebook page. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.